Alright, so I was going to talk tonight on herbs to fight infection internally. So I think I did a Facebook Live a couple weeks ago and I talked about what to do externally. And then I wanted to save this special class or special teaching for a class. So I guess I'm going to refer to I don't know if you saw the post, I had a tick bite that was pretty bad.
Yes.
I don't normally get panicked and think I should take antibiotics or something, but I actually did feel panicked with that bite. I always feel like I can do it, I can handle it, but it was very swollen and there was like the ring, didn't look good. And so I went though to my appointment or I went to urgent care, had an appointment, and I was just like praying, like I really thought I would take the antibiotic because I actually called, I have a natural chiropractor, I guess I would call him natural, that I go to, and he kind of like, when I have questions, he is like a backup, like, you know, either affirms or something what I'm asking. Well, he was away and his partner that works was available, and she told me that I should just take the antibiotic, and I couldn't believe that because I never heard them ever recommend that. You know, they always recommend something natural. And then I was like, can you check with him? So she told me she checked with him, and later that day, this was much, much later, after my appointment, I guess he said the same thing. And I was like really surprised that they recommended that to me. Now, you know, you would think that if you went to the doctor, they're going to tell you to take an antibiotic. So when I was at my appointment in the urgent care, I was kind of feeling dejected because my backup people that I talked to, they told me to just take it. And I just prayed what to do, and I got a nurse, and she, like, the first thing she said to me is she would not take the antibiotic. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're saying that. My natural guy told me to do this. She said, you should just wait and see what the blood test results are. And I never get, like, I've never had a blood test before for Lyme. I feel like I'm pretty sure I have had Lyme in my system because I go in these cycles, like if I get really run down, I have all the symptoms. But, so I had a blood test, and I decided, because of the nurse, I was like, thank God she came in and she said that to me. I thought, all right, fine. I'll just do all the herbs I know, and I'll just wait till they tell me what the blood test says. So, I never had a positive Lyme test from the blood test, and it was like days in. I kept calling. I'm like, do you have my results? They didn't have them. And then they were like, you know, we'll just call you if there's a positive. So I was already like 4 or 5 days into all of my remedies, and at that point I'm like, I'm just going to keep going with this. They didn't call me. So I feel like I can do this. So my body was like fighting some sort of weird infection. I don't know exactly what. They told me cellulitis at the appointment. I looked that up, but I don't think it was. Now, in retrospect, I don't know if it was Lyme or hold on. Or some kind of just like bizarre reaction, because I've had people tell me they've had like crazy reactions to like a spider bite or like even mosquito bites, like super swelling and stuff like that. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to do what I know to do, and it's always cleanse and nourish and support the immune system. So whenever the body has to fight something off, I go into cleanse mode, which I guess would be like I restrict my diet to more simple foods. And I already am on a diet that is without dairy, and for me, grain is like does not go well for me. So I eat the paleo diet, and that's what works for me. I think that everyone needs to, I've done some research on blood types. I'm an O. O's need meat. Whatever your blood type is, whatever body type, I think you need to have foods that suit your body. So, but I did cut meat out. I usually drink bone broth, which I did a few times when I cut out the actual meat, because broth is nourishing and it's not hard to digest. But I stick with like fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, and juices and teas. It's easier on the body to not have to digest heavy foods, whether that's dairy, meat, and some starches and carbohydrates are hard to digest. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, I was eating those. So what I started doing was like pretty much I take, when I'm like fighting an infection, like I'm taking the herbs many times a day. I want to say, probably every hour something the first week. And that could be just another cup of tea. Sometimes I'm taking a syrup, sometimes, and I'll tell you which one, sometimes I'm taking a capsule. But the teas that I was drinking, I was drinking a bunch of nervines to help relax my body so that it could heal. And that was chamomile and some lavender and skullcap. And so I pretty much made a combination of those 3 herbs. And those were not like to fight infection, but really just to help my body relax so the immune system could work better. So you're like pumping up the immune system, but you also need the nervous system to relax. So that was key. Then I made myself a big batch of, I guess it was like a combination between Dr. Schultz's Super Tonic and then Fire Cider, which Rosemary Gladstar made popular. So what I did was take onions and garlic and hot peppers and ginger, turmeric, horseradish, I think that's it, and apple cider vinegar, and I blended that into, I just like a slurry, like not, finer than a salsa would be. And that Super Tonic, so the Fire Cider you strain, you kind of steep everything and you strain it off and you have the vinegar left over. Sometimes you mix it with honey. This was just like all of that stuff chopped up, and then I would take a tablespoon multiple times a day, some days more than others. Now, I did feel like my body had heat going on, and so when you have like heat, my leg was hot. I don't always like to add herbs that bring heat to the body, but I wanted to have some more circulation going on with my bloodstream, and just like moving fluids, moving blood, moving waste. So that's why I went with the Super Tonic. And then I took echinacea. So echinacea is really good for fighting infection. So the herbs that I had in capsule form were echinacea, burdock, and yellow dock. So the burdock and yellow dock to help cleanse the liver and kidneys, and then the echinacea to help fight infection. And then on top of that, I was running my compass scans. So I used my computer. I had the Zyto compass scan, and coming up with what was on there, which my scans were like totally whacked. They were like the worst scans I've ever had. Had so much going on, and so I really just followed a lot of the herbs that came up for me on that. And thinking back, so marshmallow root and astragalus also came up because astragalus is strengthening to the immune system, and ashwagandha, so ginseng. So the ashwagandha and astragalus came up. Astragalus calming the reaction, and then marshmallow soothing tissues. So all these herbs that I'm mentioning, I have in powder, and so I usually just encapsulate really quickly the herbs that I'm going to take for the day, and usually muscle test to see like how much of each. But the main infection fighting, I guess, formulas were the super tonic, which is the blended of the hot peppers and the onions and the garlic and the ginger and horseradish, and then the echinacea, and then I also had elderberry syrup in my routine, and really it was very similar to fighting a cold, like very, very similar, same kinds of herbs, similar herbs. Now, one thing I did add to the mix was poke. And poke is what I would call like a heavy duty herb. And you can always ask questions. Okay. Usually, like when I have a group, people are asking questions, but whatever.
I wasn't certain, so.
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
So poke, I don't always use. It's like heavy duty, it's strong, and it moves the lymph system. And so when we are sick, our lymph is usually sluggish. And then with what I had going on, my glands at my groin, because the bite was behind my leg, were super swollen. So I knew from my compass scan that I needed lymphatic support. So I was actually eating 2 of the berries a day, and I don't recommend that for just anybody. I always tell people, if you're taking poke, message me or schedule a time to talk to me, because I'll tell you how much your body could handle. Because if you take too much, you can vomit. And
is it you're just taking the berry, or do you make it into a tea, or?
No, I just ate them.
You just ate them.
Yeah, and I felt like you also have to feel like really like drawn to working with the berry, and I did. And I said this in my Facebook Live. I was using the leaves topically in tea. Like I would make tea with the leaves. And then taking washcloths, soaking it in the poke leaf tea, and then putting that on my leg, because poke is so powerful. It will pull out toxins from skin cancer, tumors. Like it's very strong. So I knew like it would definitely pull whatever out of my leg, and then I felt like I needed to eat 2 of the berries to help move the lymph. The berries, and I've said this before, don't taste good. I think it's a built-in mechanism to keep someone from like overdoing it, because they're not yummy at all. They're pretty nasty. And usually what I tell people is to start with just like 1 or 2 drops of a tincture of poke. And I did not have the tincture at my house when I was first started, and I was not up to coming over here to my shop to get it. And so I thought, I'm just gonna eat the berries, and then that's what I stuck with. I would have like 2 a day. I did that for like the first week, but I continued with the poke leaf tea to soak my leg.
Okay.
So that was that incident, that circumstance. But I'll share some other herbs that are really good for just infection in general. So like if there is infection in the body, and I think of all the time, like back in history when people didn't have antibiotics and they would die from infections. You know, what, like something like I had could possibly have killed somebody.
Yeah.
If you do not have like water or clean water, well, I don't think it would have happened in winter because I do believe it was a bug bite. But let's say you were like on the frontier and had an injury, and you know, it's cold and you can't get a fire going, and the water is frozen, and it's like, you know, if you are by yourself and you would have to do all that effort to like start a fire, get water on, melt it, maybe you hardly have any food stored, or like just not a lot of nutritious food. You know, sometimes like the winters were lean or the summers were lean, and you just had like, I don't know, if you only had flour and water, like that would not be like nutritious enough. So I can see where like if you do not have what you need, the supplies, the foods, the herbs, the vegetables, the rest, the water, like I can see how infections could be super scary and dangerous, and that antibiotics really were a miracle. And are a miracle to many people, but I guess like everything or most things, the prescribing of them can be overdone to harm.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And so I believe that you should rely on your body if you have the right conditions and the right tools to work with your body to help your body overcome. So like I wouldn't say to do what I did and just like ignore taking antibiotic and having like absolutely no plan. You're just gonna, you know, eat like regular, and you probably would get like toxic, you know, blood poisoning or something like that. So it's not something you just like do. And I wouldn't recommend it, and I don't shame people who go for antibiotic. But I guess if you have the know-how and the skills and the materials, then you can assist your body successfully. So yeah, thinking back like what people had to deal with. So I'm wondering if I want to get a book out right now. Yeah, hold on a second.